Hey guys, James here with Waterford Business Solutions. As we kind of move out of the tax season chaos, we're now at the end of May, we're moving into kind of normal operations, and for a lot of our clients, we're already ramping up into busy season. What happens a lot of times now is we start having to look at asset acquisition, buying a new vehicles, outfitting a new vehicles, buying large new equipment, tools, whatever it may be. And a lot of times that's going to come with, well, potential of debt, taking out loans against the vehicles. That way it keeps your cash flow strong and we're not diving into the cash on hand. Now, a lot of clients are perfectly fine with this. Some clients are debt averse and they're scared to operate in any type of debt basis or anything like that. And then we have even more clients that, well, they don't properly borrow. We're going to kind of quickly go into a 3-week period here about debt and good debt, bad debt, how much is too much debt, anything like that there to go ahead and handle there. So we are definitely trying to understand and help you guys get a better understanding and grasp of whether you should take out debt and whether you should be scared of it. Now, ultimately, debt is nothing to really be adverse to. You can easily take out debt with a company and not end up in a bad or compromised situation as long as you're doing it smart. Now, next week we're going to talk about when does debt turn into a bad debt cycle, and then we're going to talk about what's a good target debt ratio. So we'll dig a little bit more into when debt becomes bad, but when debt is good, in general, it's not an issue for a company. Overall, a company shouldn't be adverse to taking out debt as long as they have a good positive cash flow going on with their business. Now, taking out debt is not just a situation of, hey, I need this, so I'm going to take out debt to do this. We do need to, first and foremost, make sure that we have a need for the asset. We need to make sure you actually need that vehicle, need that tool, need that piece of equipment. Because if you're just taking out debt to take out debt, not always going to be a good situation there. But if you actually need the vehicle and you can put that asset to use and that can start making you money, that's one way to start paying off debt. One thing that I've seen businesses struggle with in the past is business owners will be super debt averse and they don't want to take out any debt, so they delay expanding their business when they could add in a new vehicle, 2 new vehicles, get new technicians on the road, new revenue producers on the road. They've got the demand for it from customers. They've got the service technicians in place for it, but they don't have the assets in place. So they're scared to take out that debt and they delay expansion of their business because they don't want that debt. They just want to pay cash for it. Well, by delaying that asset acquisition and delaying that growth in their business, long term, they're giving up on a lot of money and slowing the growth of their business. Debt can be a great way to help spark growth in your business. So taking it out managed, taking it out researched, taking it out and controlling it, great ways to really manage your business. So if we know that we need an asset, we know that we can get that asset on the road, we know that we can begin having that asset give us revenue to pay itself back and everything there, that can be a great reason to take out debt. Going in further and taking a look at your cash flow in the company. This is something that a lot of companies will mess up with, is we've got to look at not just the net profits of the company, but what's your current debt servicing that you have to do? What other loans do you have? What do you have to pay out every single month there? So pulling a statement of cash flows and understanding at the end of each month, what are we looking at with cash and how much is left over? if you've got a large cash surplus at the end of the month, taking out debt isn't a problem there because it's easy to finance and control that debt and pay it back. But if you're dealing with really thin cash margins, especially during a busy season, we might want to go ahead and, instead of taking out that debt, work on consolidating and enhancing the operations of the business so that the business runs more efficiently and you can actually put more cash into the operations of the business and make more out of the business in the long run. That way we're not ending up in a point where we are over leveraged or you're digging into reserves and everything like that to pay off this debt. So we also want to understand not just the need for the asset, but our ability to pay back on that loan. That's going to be another big factor. Having a plan when taking out debt is going to be the biggest and honestly primary thing that you've always got to consider when we are operating and when you are looking at taking out any form of debt. The other thing that you want to look at, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this, is going to be your quick and current ratios. Basically, how much in liabilities do you have and how much in assets do you have to pay that back? Your current ratios kind of being, hey, this is how much in liquid or current assets I have versus payments coming due in the next 12 months. And then quick being, hey, this is how much in liabilities I have versus how much in versus how much in assets that I have. Again, this is something we're going to dig into in another 2 weeks here about what is target debt ratios. We're going to dig into a little bit more on those, but understanding those ratios is a great way to understand, do I have the ability to pay back this loan? Even if the cash flow isn't per se there, you may not have the current cash flow, but you've got reserves in place that can float you for 3 to 6 months while you get that asset up and running to provide you the cash flow you need to pay itself back. That's going to be a big factor. The other big factor that I always like clients to look at is, what's your cost? Take a look and research, what should your costs be? At the time of this recording, taking out a loan, depending on whether it's secured or unsecured, whether it's on a vehicle, whether there's special buy downs or anything like that, if we're looking at a secured loan based off of your credit or anything like that, you're going to be looking at about a 7 to about a 12, maybe 13% interest rate on that loan. Unsecured loans are going to be much higher. The more expensive it is for you to borrow, the worse it's going to be. One thing that we always want clients to avoid as much as possible is basically loan shark loans, or there's loans where you can't get out of for early payment or anything like that. Basically, hey, you take this much money, your payback's going to be this. That's going to be more of a bad debt to take out. They come at very high interest rates. They come with origination fees. They're generally unsecured, so it's more difficult. They come at very high payback rates, so it's very difficult for a business to support it. We're going to dig a little bit more into those type of loans actually next week. We're going to focus a lot on those, but that is going to be a bad debt situation. That's going to be something we really want to avoid, because while it gives you quick cash today, while it gives you money today to get out of the situation you're in, long term, it's going to probably suck out everything that you have. And if you're in the position that you're needing to get quick cash, there's other things that we need to be analyzing first and foremost. So when it comes to debt, we want to make sure that we're taking out debt in a planned manner, and that debt is going to be used to work for us. When we're not doing that, it's a good way to get yourself into a hole and get yourself into trouble. And that's the last thing we ever want to see with any type of debt. Debt should always be taken out to enhance and grow the business, with a plan in place for what that debt is going to be used for and a plan in place on how that debt's going to get repaid. Because when that doesn't exist, that's when we end up in next week's discussion of a debt cycle where you're just going to be using debt to pay off debt, and that's a vicious cycle that unfortunately regularly leads to not succeeding well or the business actually closing. As I said here, guys, we're going to have 2 more weeks talking about this. The debt cycle next week, the target debt ratio, the quick ratio, the current ratio the following week. Go ahead, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead, subscribe to our channel, turn on the bell icon. That way for these next few weeks, you can track with us, you can be with us, and you can work with us through this to really get an understanding of debt and really become a better expert and maybe even a master in your debt control there. I also invite you to go ahead and share this video with anyone who might be struggling with debt or having issues with debt. We'd love to help them understand how this works. That's why we're here. That's why we have our YouTube channel, is to really help people master and understand their businesses and their finances. If you're in a situation that you're not understanding where your money's going, or you're worried about being over leveraged or your debt, please feel free to go ahead and reach out to us here at Waterford Business Solutions. We're happy to kind of work with you, come up with those ratios, talk about ways to get out of it. We work with clients a lot on that. You can either email us at info@waterfordbusiness.com, or you can shoot us a call at 864-351-0852.